check to Mars. So I'm hoping you guys are at least seen some variant, doesn't have to be mine, but you have Mr. seen some videos in YouTube about what microservices are all about, right? The fundamental idea is that it's it's a different way of building applications, right? It's not the traditional monolithic way in which you say, okay, I'm creating traditional way of creating applications is what people usually contrast when they say microservices. Okay, I was a different. Well, look at how we used to do things before, and then I didn't favor how things are different. So the traditional way is that single code based or maybe multiple code basis, but then what gets deployed is one entity, and it that gets deployed on one server. It runs on one server, and then it scales as a single entity. That's what the difference is. It's important to remember the distinction between what you do on the coding side of things, where you can have multiple projects. You can have all kinds of more elastic, but still end up having a monolith deployed on the server, right? So microservices, that thing changes. You could still follow the same patterns with coding, but then what gets deployed, what's happening at runtime is very, very different, right? So that's the primary way of looking at microservices as this completely different thing. And, it affects the way you build stuff. It affects the way you think about how you organize your code. It affects the way you think about what are the other things you need to do around it, all that stuff, right? So let's start with the agenda. We are, like I said, it's going to be a hands-on workshop. We're going to try to make it hands-on. We're going to be creating a couple of microservices. When you did a git clone, what you got was kind of like the final state of what we're going to be building, right? We're going to be building a sample application, which consists of 4 microservices. They're all going to work together to farm that application that's what the end goal is going to be. And there are a lot of things you can do with microservices. There are a whole stack of technologies involved. Since this is a basic workshop, we're going to start small. And what we're going to do is we're going to have microservices talk to each other. Okay, that's like the basic thing you have to do. You have one big monolith. You split it up into smaller stuff, but the most basic thing you have to do, you have to make them talk, right? To get a cohesive piece of functionality as the end result. So these are the only 2 things we're going to be doing, but you'll be surprised how much is involved in just getting these 2 things done, creating microservices and having them talk. There are various aspects to having microservices start. You can just have one microservice, hardcode it to make and call to another microservice, get a response, and then do something with it. Or you can be a little bit more elaborate. You can do something like service discovery and have microservices discover who it needs to call and then call it, rather than have that target be hardcoded, right? So we're going to be doing both, hopefully of type permits. I talked about this. The challenge that people have when they start with microservices is very established. You have, like, if you look at presenting like Spring Cloud, right? Spring Cloud is just one way of creating microservices, one set of technologies for creating microservices. And just in Spring Cloud, you have like a whole lot of buzzwords, all kinds of Greek names. And so where do you start? Addition to the technologies, you also have a lot of patterns. Each of those technologies have certain patterns you need to follow, right? That's how you make the best use of this technology. So it's not just enough to learn what the technology is. You also have to learn how do you use it, right? Well, what are the things you have to do to make this technology work in the optimal thing? So it's another challenge we have. The biggest challenge among all those things that I personally faced when I started microservices was they're all interdependent. So that's something that I'm hoping to break in this order of kind of pick the order the best I can, so that it's going to like an incremental progression rather than this whole chain that you're going to have to learn everywhere.